All right, so good morning to all. Welcome to Thursday of a very short week. Tomorrow's Friday, of course, in which your papers are due, if I remember correctly. Morning, Henry. When your paper is done, can you please email it to me? Again, in Word or Pages format would be great. What's that? Then I will not mark it and I will delete it and forget I ever saw it. Just email it to me, George. Don't make my life difficult. Don't make my life difficult. It's already difficult, George. I have a difficult life. So don't forget. Yeah, don't forget to do that. Please email it to me, and then I will try to mark it. Good morning. Good morning. Where are we? So in about 8 minutes, so at 10:15, we're going to have an earthquake drill. Okay, so as you may or may not know, we live in an earthquake zone here. Vancouver has experienced earthquakes and could again. And so if an earthquake happens, what should we do? Run around and panic? What? Hide under the table, right? And while you're under the table, what are you doing?
Like hold the thing.
Cover our head.
Well, you can use the table to cover your head, right? This is a pretty strong table, but you want to hang on to the table, right? Because when everything's shaking, the table can move out from over top of you, right? And then stuff that is in the ceiling, like these vents and lights, can fall out and hit you on the head, and that would be tragic, right? So under the table, hold on to the table to make sure it doesn't shake away, and wait until you get the all clear, right? So at 10:15, you'll hear an announcement saying it's an earthquake, and so we'll pretend it's an earthquake. It's like make-believe when you're a kid. Everybody under the desks, make sure that your head and if you can get your body covered under here, that's a good idea as well. Some of you who are a little bit larger may have trouble fitting under the desk like me, but do your best. And then wait for the all clear, okay? You'll hear some very realistic sound effects from the speaker. It'll sound like you're really in an earthquake, but don't be afraid. It's not a real one, okay? It's just a sound effect.
Is the building gonna shake too?
No, the building is not going to shake. We don't have money. We don't have money for that kind of those kind of special effects. We just have like crumpling paper or whatever whatever they used. So anyway, that's what will happen in about 6 minutes. Okay, so be ready to jump under the table at a moment's notice. Okay. All right. So that said, yesterday we finished watching the T Word, right? And so we answered a bunch of questions about this documentary produced by Laverne Cox, a trans woman and an actor, and she met with a bunch of trans youth and kind of helped us kind of understand their experience, right? Their experience of their gender identity, the challenges they face, how society accepts or doesn't accept them. And again, yeah, we got a little bit of a window into their world, and I hope, Mike and Faye, I hope that we also maybe saw that, you know, they're kind of just people like you and me, right? We're all trying to kind of figure out who we are. We're all trying to sort of, you know, live our lives in school or kind of figure out what we want to do with our lives or whatever, and we're making friends, and maybe we're making romantic connections or whatever we're doing. They're trying to do that too, right? They're going through kind of the same things that all of us do. But again, because society hasn't really accommodated space for them because they don't fit into pre-existing gender roles, they struggle in various ways, right? And so, again, cisgender people and heterosexual people are the dominant group, and so they're the ones that have kind of defined what is normal, right? And so most of society looks at people who are transgender and say, oh, these people are not normal, right? And they certainly aren't common, right? They are a a small percentage of the population. Again, we're not really sure what percentage because lots of people are in the closet, right? So they haven't disclosed the fact that they are transgender. And there's no real way to collect data on this. So we don't really know for sure how many transgender people there are out there. It's probably a small number, but we just don't know for sure. But again, they're not common, but society determines what is and isn't normal. And so I think we're in the process of kind of expanding the boundaries of gender and sexuality to include these people as, under the normal umbrella. Not common, right? Certainly a minority, but perhaps normal. George, you had a question?
Yeah. Doesn't like the doctors are keep note on who's transgender?
Doctors would, right? So if you were a transgender person and you went to the doctor, they would certainly note it in their files, but those files are confidential, right? They're not made available to anyone else. So, yeah, I'm sure there's tons of files that talk about people's gender, but that's not accessible to the public or to the government. So, again, we don't really know how common or uncommon this experience is, right? So some of the questions I asked you in the process of that documentary had to do with language and had to do with pronouns. And so some of the young people in the documentary talked about pronouns that they like to be addressed by, words that they like to use to describe themselves, and words that they do not like applied to them. And that led us to talk about this guy here, right? Jordan Peterson. And we said he was a psychology prof at U of T, and about 3 years ago now, he got himself involved in a bit of a controversy around pronoun use, right? And so I provided you with, sorry, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit because we've seen all these before. So I provided you with an article called "He Says Freedom, They Say Hate, the Pronoun Fight is Back." And so in this article, I asked you to determine those two arguments. So we're probably going to get an earthquake drill in about a minute, so I'm just going to pause there until it happens. But I will say good morning to Clara and to Amy, good morning, and to Avera, good morning to you. And Gabrielle, hello Gabrielle, good evening. And Daniel, hello Daniel. And Shamimu, hello to you. And Sala, good morning. And Sabrina, good morning. And Vicky, hello Vicky. Okay, so I'm just going to wait a minute because we're going to get an announcement in 1 minute, and then we're all going to have to dive under the desk as if our life depended on it, because it may eventually.
Do a school shooter drill.
What's that?
A school shooter drill.
They call it a lockdown drill, but yeah, we'll have to do one of those too.
The one with the fire, was it a drill or was it
Oh no! Isn't that realistic?
Yeah.
Aren't you frightened?
Yeah.
Don't be. It's not real.
Right now, drop, cover, and hold on. Drop to the ground. Take cover under a sturdy piece of furniture.
Well, I'm too big.
Hold on until the
Make
shaking
sure you
stops.
face away from the window. Who's that? I can't see.
Remember to turn away from
Yeah,
glass
just make sure your
windows.
face is protected.
If you can't get under something like a piece of furniture, stay low and protect your head and neck using your arms. Strong earthquakes may trigger a tsunami. If you are near the ocean during an earthquake, drop, cover, and hold on, and when the shaking stops, quickly move to higher ground.
If there's a tsunami, these tables will not float. Just so you know.
escape.
It used to
So
be.
they
I
will
don't
not
know.
fall
They've
and
replaced
injure
you.
you
Yeah,
during a strong
maybe.
earthquake. Do you have a plan to reunite with
Just listen
family
to the message.
if both connections are interrupted?
Is it
For
intended to
more
be sounded
information
like
on
me?
emergency preparedness and earthquakes, visit the website shakeoutbc.ca
Is it intended to
or
make it sound
speak to
echoey?
someone in student
I don't know
services.
why it's echoey.
Thank you for taking part in the
It's like
Columbia
we're in a
College
game.
Scientific drill.
I know. I don't know if Rose recorded that in a cave or not, but okay. And we're back. So I hope you all enjoyed that. That was our first virtual.
May I have your attention, please?
That's me.
Building emergency has ended and all clear has been given. Please resume normal activity. May I have your attention, please?
Why didn't
The
yours
building emergency has ended
Say what?
and all
Why is
clear
yours
has been
now?
given. Please resume normal activity.
I don't control
May I
the
have your
recordings.
attention, please? The building emergency has ended.
Is that what I
and
sound
all
like?
clear has been given. Please resume normal activity.
None of the activity in this classroom is normal. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So, yeah, the first virtual earthquake drill. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it. Hope you all enjoyed it too. Okay, so where were we? The article. So Jordan Peterson found himself embroiled in a bit of a controversy because, again, the University of Toronto had sent a letter to all of its instructors and its staff saying, you know, please be sensitive to people's gender identity. If they ask you to use certain pronouns, please use those pronouns, right? And Jordan Peterson had a bit of a reaction to that. He created a YouTube video explaining why he didn't want to do that. And then a controversy erupted, right, George? A controversy erupted. What's a controversy, by the way? I keep using that word.
People talking, and there's like two sides of that.
Yeah, a lot of people talking, and there's two sides, right? So something that is controversial is something that people have different opinions about, right? You know, murder is wrong. That's not a controversial opinion, right? Almost everybody believes that you should not murder people, right? That's not controversial. But there's lots of more controversial topics, and this is one of them, right? So I gave you this article. I said there were two arguments in it, and I wanted us to find the arguments and try to discuss them. And so, can I give you about 6 minutes just to look over this article again and get ready, and then we'll talk about it? Can we do that? Can we do that? Okay. So I'm going to put 6 minutes on the clock just so we can review and get ready, okay? You need to determine what the arguments are. There's two sides to this story. So I want to know the conclusion and I want to know the premises. I want to know what is supporting those conclusions, okay? All right. Okay, good people. So, we have two arguments here, right? So Jordan Peterson hopefully is supplying one, and there are people who oppose Jordan Peterson on the other side. Before we start, who are those people on the other side? We know who Jordan is, but who's kind of opposing him? Students? Yeah, LGBTQ or transgender students. Or what's that? Q stands for queer. And so queer used to be a bit of a slang, a bit of a slur. So people who were gay were queer and it was a bad thing. Now they've kind of taken that word back, and now it kind of, it refers to people who are either are not straight, but they don't want to define their sexuality by being gay or lesbian or bisexual or whatever. So they, either their gender or their sexuality is kind of, they don't want to define it any further than being not straight. Okay, so they just, so gender queer or queer in general is just not straight and maybe not cisgender. But it's, they don't want to define themselves any more precisely than that. Okay, so there's people, there's students on the other side, there's LGBTQ supporters or activists and trans students and people who support them. Let's start with them. Let's start with that group. So what is their, they have an argument that they're making, and what's the conclusion of that argument? What's the thing that they want us to know or believe? What do they want us to know or believe? These students and activists.
That Jordan should use a non-gender pronoun.
Excuse me. Oh, just had to sneeze. Don't panic. I'm okay. Yeah, so Jordan and maybe everybody, but Jordan in specific, should use the pronouns that people ask them to use. Okay? Yeah, sure. That's good. That's a good conclusion. People should use the appropriate pronouns that people request in connection with their gender, right? That's the conclusion. So as good critical thinkers, of course, we should ask, why should we believe that? What's your supporting reasons for that, right? And so what's one supporting reason? Why should we use the correct pronouns according to what people ask for?
So that we don't hurt their feelings.
Right, because using incorrect pronouns can hurt people, right? Can hurt their feelings. What else?
Can make other people oppose them, opposed to them, like death threats and stuff.
Right, and so have we talked about that already? I don't know if we've talked about it already, but yes. So people who are allowed to express prejudice or discrimination often embolden or make some people more bold to express their prejudice as well, right? So when Jordan Peterson expresses the fact that he doesn't want to use these pronouns, other people seem to appear and sort of feel more comfortable expressing their prejudices, right? So he, maybe for this one, could we say, Anna, could we say he empowers prejudiced people? Would that be, just to sort of really shorten that idea, could we say that? Okay, so he empowers or emboldens or encourages people with prejudice to say their prejudice more freely, right? Okay, so he encourages or emboldens others. Using the wrong pronouns can hurt people's feelings. What else? What else is there in here? So again, we should use the correct pronouns. Why should we do that?
That just show that we accept them, like those people.
Right, so referring to people as the way they would like to be referred to shows acceptance, right? It shows that you accept who people are and who they say they are. What else? What else is there? Why should we use these pronouns?
What's their identity?
Yeah, so how you are called, whether it's your name or the pronouns that you use, is part of your identity, right? And so this is probably, I think, maybe connected to Daniel's point, but yeah, you're showing that you accept other people's identity, right? So if I call Anna by her name, it shows that I know who you are and I accept who you've told me that you are, right? And so I don't call you by a different name on purpose or by accident, because that would, yeah, that would be hurtful, right? Or at least a little off-putting. Daniel here says, it's offensive to describe people as something they're not. Yeah, right. So also true, right? When you don't refer to people the way they want to be referred to, you're showing that you don't accept them, right? You're showing that you don't accept who they are as a person, right? And again, that can be offensive, but it can also be hurtful, right? What else? What else is there? Why is this? Why are we talking about pronouns specifically for transgender people? Why are we not talking about just, you know, why does everyone call me he and him? Why does nobody confuse my pronouns? Nobody's ever called me she. Not even by accident.
You're a man.
Okay, and? Because I'm a man?
You want us to
I do, but I never had to tell you that, right? But why not? Because I have a beard, right? But what does that have to do with things that we already know? Well, yes. I'm very obviously a man, but why am I? Yeah, my gender expression is a man, and my gender identity is one that society accepts, right? So in traditional terms, society has created two genders, man and woman, right? And so I've relatively easily fit into the gender of man. Many women easily fit into the gender of woman, and so they are in the dominant group. But transgender individuals are in which group? The minoritized group, right? They're a group that doesn't have social power. They're a group that society doesn't see as normal or might not accept as readily. And so knowing that they are a small group, a vulnerable group, a minoritized group, do they deserve extra protection? Yeah, right? And we talked about that in the ableism documentary with Adam Pearson, right? When he was talking to that, I forget if he was a lawyer or what he was. He was by the sea and they were having tea or coffee outside. And he said, yeah, society realizes that some groups of people are more vulnerable than others, and that those groups require extra protection because of that, right? And so are transgender people one of those groups? Yeah, they require extra consideration. I don't need any protection for my gender identity because society sees it as normal, right? A cisgender man is quite normal, right? But a transgender person, still society doesn't see them as normal, and they require extra protection. What else is there in here on this side of the argument?
It's like this argument has been talked over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just giving this message that it's not good to be a transgender because they won't like society will not accept you even we don't call you with what you want to.
Right, so not using correct pronouns continues to reinforce the message that you are not accepted, right? Which, again, trans people often feel already anyway, right? And so this just drives it home again, right? Let me ask you this. So this whole thing got kicked off because the university sent a memo to instructors and staff asking them to use correct pronouns. Can the university do that? Can they tell people what to do?
Yes, like they employ the professor.
They employ the professor, right? So can Columbia College tell me what to say and not to say in this classroom?
Yeah, they pay you.
Yeah, they pay me. And actually, in a way, you pay me, or your parents pay me. But yeah, the college pays me, right? So to some degree, they can tell me what to do, right? They tell me that I have to show up on time for class, right? They tell me that I actually have to teach the course. They tell me that I actually have to mark your assignments and your exams, right? There are certain things that they can tell me to do as an employee, right? And they do. I do have to do those things. If I don't show up on time, they're probably going to fire me, right? What's that? No. It would have to be a pattern. Even so, I'm still not late. Okay, let me ask you a question about this. What do you know about academic? Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm going to ask it. Avera has said something here. A discriminatory environment fosters an unsafe learning space. Yeah, this is important. This is a bit of kind of pedagogy thing. So this is kind of educational theory. But the idea here is that if you don't feel safe with me, like if you don't feel that I accept you and like you as people, if you don't feel that way, then is it going to be easy for you to learn from me? No, right? Are you going to feel comfortable submitting your assignments to me and thinking that I will grade them fairly? No, right? So one of the things that needs to happen in this room before anything else is that you have to at least feel safe with me, right? You may not like me, you may not like the course, you may not like how I teach the course, but you have to feel like there's some degree of acceptance and safety in here. And if you don't feel that, then it's going to be very difficult for you to learn and to submit your assignments and feel that I am grading them fairly, because that safety and that trust isn't there, right? So the safety and the trust has to come first, right? And it's particularly important in high school. This is university here, but it's particularly important in high school. And so there is the possibility that in not using correct gender pronouns, Jordan Peterson is creating an unsafe space for some of his students, right? His transgender students, maybe some of his minoritized students, maybe some of his students who are gay or lesbian, even though sexuality and gender are not the same. It's not clear. It's not clear if Jordan Peterson will accept them in his class, right? So it not only creates a sort of an unsafe, or it contributes to an unsafe environment on the college campus, but perhaps in his class as well, right? So Avera points out that safety and trust is important. And again, you don't have to like me, you don't have to think I'm the greatest person to ever walk the earth, but you have to at least feel that I am a safe person and I am accepting of you, right? That's step one. If we don't have that, then it's very difficult for anything else to happen. Anna.
But why a psychology professor says something like that? I mean, he should understand better than everyone.
Yeah, well, okay. So let's press pause on that and come back to it. Because Anna's question is that, he's a psychology instructor. Shouldn't he figure this out? Shouldn't he know this? Okay. But yeah, press pause and we'll come back to it. Is there anything else that we should add to the argument of the sort of students and activists and people that are opposing Jordan Peterson? So we've said that using correct pronouns is what they're arguing for, right? They're saying that Jordan and other people should use correct gender pronouns when asked. Why should they do that? Well, because it shows that they accept the identity of other people. It's important not to hurt other people's feelings if you can avoid it. These people are a vulnerable minoritized group, and so they need a little bit of extra protection. They maybe outside of their gender identity is sometimes outside of what is normal in society, and so people they may actually have to tell you what pronouns they want you to use. As I say, for me, I'm a cisgender man. I don't have to tell anyone that I'm a he. People just assume it very easily because that's what they've been socialized to do. Here, people may need to, transgender people may need to say, look, please refer to me with these pronouns, right? And finally, we should use correct pronouns because it creates a safe learning space in the classroom, right? It shows that the professor accepts his students, and so the students can at least trust him to teach them and to grade their assignments fairly, right? And that's important in a classroom. Let's go over to Jordan Peterson. So what's Jordan Peterson's conclusion of his argument? What is he arguing?
We shouldn't use like those makeup pronouns like we.
Okay, so he's saying we shouldn't use them, or what else? Can we? I think we're close, but I think we could be a little more precise with that conclusion. You're right, but there's maybe a little more going on here. What's he saying? What's he arguing?
So we can't use Z or Z because it's disrupting the way of language, the ideal language.
Right. Okay, so he has a bit of a problem with the language, and particularly, let me see. And anyone else want to take a swing at this one? There's one more piece that I think is important for what Jordan is arguing.
Everyone get to say what they want to say.
Yeah, he's talking a little bit about what people should say, what they want to say, and about freedom of speech, right? So I think the conclusion that Jordan is saying is that he shouldn't be made to use these pronouns, right? So the university is trying to make him use certain language. He's saying, I shouldn't have to, right? Nobody should be making me use pronouns I don't want to use. Nobody should be making me say things I don't want to say. Is that okay? See that? Okay, good stuff. So that's his argument, right? Nobody should make me use pronouns and language that I don't want to use. Okay, Jordan, why should we believe that? What are his premises here, apparently?
Like people who made up those pronouns are not legit.
Okay, so the people who created these pronouns, people who created this language, are not legit. Give me something better than legit. You're right, but give me something better than legit. Or why are they not legit?
They are like power mad people who use compassion as a disguise.
Okay. So a quote directly from the article there, back row. Are you with me? John and Sam and George, are you with me? Okay. So Kang, you said the people who made up this language are power mad people who use compassion as a disguise. Okay. Unpack that for me. What on earth is he talking about?
So like those people like abuse other people's vulnerability to like gain power or something.
Okay. So he's saying that Jordan, shouldn't be made to use these pronouns because if I do, that allows certain people who are power mad to gain more power. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, who are these people?
Human resources.
Okay. Human resources. The university's human resource department. Do you know what human resources does in a company? We have a human resources person. Her name is Denise.
Like HR,
Yeah, what does HR do?
like
What's Denise do?
I employ people, and manage people.
Yeah, she kind of she keeps track of our human resources, right? So she's part of, if we need a new instructor, she's the one who puts the ad out, in Indeed and other places. She's the one who takes in resumes when people submit them. She looks them over to make sure that they're legit, She's the one who passes them on to people. Sometimes when we're hiring people at the college, she is part of the interview process. So when I got hired, Denise was in the room, and so she asked me questions in my interview/presentation. So she looks after kind of our benefits and tracks sick days and all kinds of things. So she kind of looks after our, all the employment stuff that we need to happen here at the college, right? She looks after all of those things. She makes sure we're following all the employment laws and rules. It's kind of her job. Okay. So Denise apparently is trying to make professors use certain pronouns so that she can gain power because she is power mad. Does that make sense?
No.
That does not make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a little weird, but I think that's one of his premises, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's put that aside for a minute. What else is he arguing? So, or not what else is he arguing? He's arguing that he shouldn't be made to use these pronouns. Why not? Why should he not be made to use these pronouns? We're doing good so far.
He said that no pronouns compel the use of particular kind of ideological language.
Right, so he's talking about being compelled to use a certain type of ideological language. What kind of ideology is he connecting with this?
Like formal English language.
Yes, we're kind of there's the point of view that we're kind of interfering with the English language, but we do that all the time, right? We create new words all the time. Give me a slang word that kids are using now. Yo is an old one, right? But yo is not a word, but well, it is now, but it didn't used to be. What else? Are things still on fleek? Is anything on fleek, or is that like a couple years old now? Do people still say on fleek? Fleek is not a word. Fleek is not an English word. F-L-E-E-K.
It's like a new word.
C-K. No, C-K or just K?
I used to say it.
You used to say it,
Yeah.
and people don't say it anymore? Even if people don't say it anymore, fleek is not an English word, and yet people used it. What else?
Like a new word. It's like sim.
What?
Sim.
Simp?
Yeah, that's like a new word.
Like what? How use it in a sentence? How does that? What's it mean? You're a simp. Like you're simple.
No,
No,
simp
it's
means
like-
you're just being nice to a girl. That's it.
You're just being nice to her.
Overly.
Because she's too pretty.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're being simp, or you are a simp?
You are.
You're a simp for her.
You're a simp because you're being like overly nice to a girl,
Yeah.
Because
so that she'll like you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a new word now.
that's a new word. Yeah, simp is not a word. What else do people? What's that? Bra or bro. Bro is not a real word. Bra is not a word. Like hey bra. Bra is not a word. What else is there?
I.
What? Ite? Ite is not a it's not a word, right? What else? Other slang words that people are using now. Gotcha might actually be a word at this point. It's been around for a long time. What else is another slang word? A might actually be a word at this point too. That's an old one. But okay, what else is there? Give me one more.
Cap.
Huh?
Cap.
Camp?
K-A-P. Cap.
Okay, what does that mean?
Lie. You're lying. You're capping.
Like you're gonna shoot someone?
No, you're capping. It means like you're lying.
Oh, capping. Oh, good. Capping means lying. Good. Brand new word. Cap with a K.
I don't know. Is it K or C? I don't know.
It's C.
It's a C?
It's a C.
Okay, so cap is an actual word, right? So what Mike is wearing over there can be referred to as a cap, right? The baseball cap. But of course, we've we've given that word a new meaning, right? So do we muck around with the English language all the time?
Yep.
Yeah, we make up stuff all the time. Some words stick and become, some made up, well, all words are made up. That's what Thor says, right? All words are made up. But some newly made up words, some of them stick and become part of the language. Some of them kind of drift off and we don't use them anymore. But we're constantly inventing new words. So I don't know. You know, I don't know why Z or G should be singled out as made up, as inappropriately made up words, because we make up words all the time and nobody makes a big deal about it. What else is he saying? Oh yeah, the ideological language. What ideologies is he tying to this? Oh, Avera says political correctness. What does politically correct mean? To be when something's politically correct. Do you know what that's trying to imply? I'm going to say this because I'm going to be politically correct. What does that mean? Don't know? Yeah, according to politics, right? So saying something in a way that people think you should say it, right? So when you're being politically correct, you're saying things in the way that people think you should say them. What else? There's ideologies though. What ideologies is he connecting to this? He says what, Daniel, what did he say again? Can you read me that section about the ideological language? Yeah.
Compel the use of particular kind of ideological language.
Right, and the use of that language empowers, not the HR people, but he mentioned someone else too. Or another group, started with an M. He connected this ideological language or ideology with a group of people starting with M. Do you see it?
Mandatory anti-racist.
No. That's an M, but that's not what I'm looking for. Did he say something about left-wing Marxists? Do you see it? There we go. Gabrielle's got it. Marxists. Do you know who Marxists are?
Yeah, like the founder of like communism.
Yeah, so Karl Marx is the founder of communism and socialism. And so Marxists are people who either believe in communism or socialism or who look at society through the lens of Marx, if you will. So he's saying that using this language supports a certain type of ideology, Marxist ideology. And then who is he connecting with the Marxists? The Nazis, right? So he says using this type of language empowers Marxists, so people who are kind of pro-communist, pro-socialism. And then he says that those people are no better than the Nazis. Okay, does that make sense to you?
It's so irrelevant. Like it's just a word.
That's a bit of a walk, right? It's a bit of a distance between using a pronoun and empowering Marxists and Nazis. Does that?
Irrelevant.
Right, yeah. So this is a premise that doesn't entirely make sense, right? And it's almost like a situation where, you know, when we were talking about the coffee argument, maybe we shouldn't get into this yet. I'll say it and then we'll come back to it. When I asked you about the coffee argument, one of the premises I gave you was it was delicious. And then I asked you, is being delicious a reason why someone might drink something? And I think you said, yeah, that's often why we drink what we drink, right? Jack is drinking his Sprite because, does it taste good? Yes. Yeah, if it tasted horrible, would you drink it? No, right? So that's kind of a valid premise, right? But here, we shouldn't use these pronouns because it empowers Marxists and Nazis, who are not the same thing, by the way. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't seem to make sense, but I think that's what he's saying. What else is he talking about? There's another premise here. I think. And I think it has to do with something that was already mentioned. It's on the screen right now, by the way. Freedom of speech. So what does that mean, freedom of speech?
You can say whatever you want.
You can say whatever you want. Is that entirely true?
No.
No? What can you not say?
I think that might offend others.
What's that? Your hobbies? No. Does freedom of speech mean you can say whatever you want?
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, but you should.
Well, there is some things you cannot say, right? So here in the U.S. and in Canada, freedom of speech means you can express your views and you can hold whatever views you want. However, you may not speak in a way that creates hatred towards other groups. You may not do that. So you can say whatever you want, but you may not speak in a way that creates or expresses hatred towards particular groups. And it also doesn't mean that there are no consequences for what you say, right? So even if you do have freedom of speech, people, there may be consequences for the things that you say. Do you know what academic freedom is? Academic freedom?
So like you can be creative and write whatever you want, but like there's certain like benchmark. You shouldn't pass it.
Yeah, you could. So here's how it works. So professors like Jordan Peterson at a university are tenured, okay? And what that means is that once they get to a certain point, usually they have to be a professor for about 7 years. They have to sort of publish a bunch of articles and demonstrate that they are good teachers and that they've contributed to their discipline as a whole. And if they can demonstrate that, the department will give them tenure. And that means they have a job for life. So basically, as long as they don't do anything horrible or commit a crime, they have a job for life. And one of the reasons for this is to protect academic freedom. So it's important that scientists are able to study whatever they study and come up with the truth, whether the truth is politically convenient or not, right? You don't want universities firing professors because they are coming up with inconvenient truths, right? Or they are investigating things that maybe people don't want them to investigate, right? So I'm sure some people in the United States would like to shut down people who are studying climate change, right? But universities have given those professors tenure so that they can continue to work, they can continue to study climate change, and they can continue to produce papers saying climate change is real, we should be concerned, right? Lots of people not just in the US, but lots of people don't believe that, but it's important for those people to continue to have jobs so they can study and produce the data that they think is correct, right? The academic community will determine whether their findings are valid or not, okay? So professors have academic freedom to publish the results of their research, whatever they may be. We don't want the university firing them just because the university doesn't like what the conclusions are. That's bad science. So Jordan has this, right? He has tenure and he has academic freedom. Now, does academic freedom and does freedom of speech allow him to not use these pronouns?
No.
No, why not?
Like freedom of speech, as you say, like you can say whatever you want, but like you shouldn't like offend other people. In this case, like, he offended people. Yeah.
Right. Is he, and this might be a little bit tenuous, but is not using these pronouns, does it count as hate speech?
Well, transgender people are getting more accepted, and he's just rejecting them.
Right. So, I don't know. Who thinks this is Does this count as hate speech or not? Personally, I'm not sure. For me, it doesn't feel like a clear, a clear hate speech issue. Is he discriminating? Is he discriminating? I think he is, right? Because he's saying that this group of people, I will not use the pronouns that they want. And this other group of people, cisgender people, I will. So I think he is discriminating. Is it hate speech? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think I understand hate speech well enough to make an argument one way or another. This is a gray area, I think. Does his academic freedom cover this? No? Why not? Does his academic freedom to study what he wants to study and publish the results of his research cover this?
It's not a research.
It's not research. What is it? What's he doing in the classroom? Hopefully it's what I'm doing right now. Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, he's teaching, right? So does this have to do with his research? No. Is it covered under his academic freedom? I don't know that it is. You may disagree with me, and you're allowed to, but I don't know that this is covered under his academic freedom, right? He's operating as a teacher, not as a researcher, right? And he's not studying gender pronouns. He's studying whatever the heck he studies, I don't know. He doesn't study gender pronouns. So this is not his research. So can the university ask him to use certain language in the classroom? I think so. The Columbia College can certainly tell me what to say and what not to say. Do you think there are things that the college does not want me to say in this classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And if I'm a professional, I will agree with them, right? I agree with the college that some things I should not say in this classroom, nor do I want to, and so I don't say them, right? But the college can require that of me. Am I allowed to swear? Am I allowed to use a lot of profanity in here? No, right? I don't want to do that because that would be unprofessional, but would the college like me to do that? No. If I started doing it, would the college say something? Absolutely. I would get a letter of reprimand saying, watch your language in the classroom, use professional language, please, right? And they are allowed to do that. And as I say, as a professional, I agree with them. Okay, so Jordan Peterson is saying, I shouldn't have to use these gender pronouns. Why not, Jordan? Why should you not be forced to use them? What was one premise?
Freedom of speech.
Right, he says that it's freedom of speech. He should be allowed to say what he wants. What was another one?
Politic correctness.
Right, so he's worried about this political correctness, right? Because it impinges on his freedom of speech, and it also empowers those power-mad HR people like Denise. Sorry, Denise. She's not watching, but right, that was the other thing too. And then using that language, who else does it empower? Started with an M?
A Marxist?
Marxists, who apparently are no better than Nazis. Okay, is there anything we missed in his argument? Okay, so we have two arguments, okay? Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about whether these are valid or not, okay? Okay. So, we, I think, have successfully determined 2 arguments from this article, which is pretty good because I think we can agree that the arguments weren't outlined clearly, right? They were kind of scattered throughout the article. And of course, nobody kind of was able to make their point the way they wanted to make it. And so we had to sort of assemble the arguments from what the article gave us, which is good. I think we did a good job. And so, yeah, I think there's two arguments here. And so Peterson says, yeah, he shouldn't be forced to use these gender-neutral pronouns by the university. And so his premises are, and I think we said this, is that he being compelled to use this language will somehow lead to totalitarianism, right? Which is kind of authoritarian dictator governments, right? So he's talking about Marxists and Nazis. So somehow this is going to lead to this situation. He says that ideological language such as this empowers power-mad people, which is apparently HR. Being compelled to use this language violates his academic freedom, right? And we said his academic freedom means he's allowed to publish the results of his research, and the academic community will decide whether or not he's correct or not, right? We don't want professors being fired because their research is unpopular, right? And then finally, he says being compelled to use this language violates his right to freedom of speech, right? That's pretty much what we said? Yeah? Okay. And the other side, so university students and student advocates and trans people, gender non-binary people, they were saying that university and staff, I got to correct that, that's wrong, should be, maybe forced is not the right word, but encouraged to use gender-neutral pronouns at people's request. And so why should they do that? Well, because people have a right not to be discriminated against, right? I don't think we came up with that one, but they do, right? And so we should use the pronouns that are in alignment with someone's gender because we don't want to discriminate. And in fact, you're not allowed to discriminate against people, right? That's in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada. Discrimination and non-acceptance of transgender people and gender non-binary people emboldens others to discriminate as well. We talked about that, right? So when Jordan Peterson expresses prejudice or discriminatory views, other people start to loudly voice their prejudicial views as well, right? I guess another premise could be that being compelled to use this language does not violate his academic freedom, and we've sort of talked about that. And being compelled to use this language does not violate freedom of speech because freedom of speech requires that you respect other people's rights. And so these people have a right not to be discriminated against. And so that's the thing about rights, is that you cannot exercise your rights in a way that denies rights to other people. Okay, that's another part of how civil rights and human rights work. So my rights don't, sorry for using this word, trump. My rights don't trump yours, right? I can't exercise my freedom of speech in a way that discriminates against you because you have a right not to be discriminated against, right? So again, the rights have to be kind of in balance, right? I can't get my rights at the expense of yours. And so his right to freedom of speech cannot be exercised in a way that discriminates against people because they have a right not to be discriminated against, okay? Okay, 2 arguments. How do we figure out if arguments are valid? We see if the premises legitimately support the conclusion and if the premises are true. Actually, let's start right here. Are all of these premises true? People have the right not to be discriminated against. Is that true?
Absolutely.
That is true. Discrimination and non-acceptance of transgender and gender non-binary people emboldens others to discriminate as well. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that, right? Does being compelled to use this language in this situation, does that violate academic freedom? Not sure? I don't know that it does. I think that if he was researching gender pronouns, maybe. But that's not his area of research. And I think even gender itself is not an area of his research. So I would say, and you can agree or disagree with me on this, but I would say his academic freedom is not covered by this because it doesn't have to do with his research. It doesn't have to do with his academics.
And I think in the article they say he had the semester off because he does his research during this.
Yeah, so he is doing research, but not about this. Yeah, so he is a researcher, he does publish things, but not on this. And so I would say because this is not his research, it's not covered. And then, does being compelled to use this language, does it violate his right to free speech? Maybe, right? We said, does this constitute hate speech? I don't know that it does, right? Does it discriminate against other people? Yes, it does, right? It discriminates against transgender and gender non-binary people, right? So again, even if his rights aren't being violated, him not using these pronouns does violate the rights of others, right? Okay, so all of these are either true or maybe true. It's gray area, right? Are they all legitimate reasons why we should use the appropriate pronouns?
Yeah.
Are they all legitimately support? Okay, so is this a decent argument? Good argument? Okay, so yeah, so here we have a good argument. The premises are true or arguably true, right? And also all these premises legitimately support the conclusion. Let's look at Jordan here. So the first premise, being compelled to use this language leads to totalitarianism. Is that true?
Irrelevant.
Well, we'll come to irrelevant in a second, but is it true?
No.
Do you understand how using a gender-neutral pronoun can lead to having having a dictatorship in Canada? Do you understand how that works? How we get from one place to the other? Do you understand that? I don't either.
It's too advanced. My brain cannot process.
It's a long walk, right? It's a long walk from using gender-neutral pronouns to dictatorship in Canada, right? There's a big gap, right? Maybe he has some ideas about how we get from one place to another, but I don't see the connection, right? That's a long walk, right? So is this true?
No.
I don't see how it could be. I would need a lot more information because there's a big gap between these two ideas, but I'm not sure that that's true. I don't see how it is. Ideological language such as this empowers power-mad people. Is that true? To what end? Yeah, like what kind of power does HR get? And why do they want it? And how does me using pronouns give it to them? I don't get this one either. I don't understand how this, I don't understand how that works. Again, I would need a little more to understand what's going on here. Does being compelled to use this language violate his academic freedom? Again, you could agree or disagree with me on this one, right? I don't think it does. Unless he's researching this exact thing, I don't think he gets a pass on academic freedom. I don't think so. You may disagree with me. I think he disagrees with me. But does this violate his right to free speech? Not necessarily, right? But does it violate the rights of others?
Yes.
Yeah, so again, this one's a little bit questionable. It depends whether you define what he's doing as hate speech or not. If you don't, then it doesn't necessarily violate his right to free speech, but him using his right here violates the rights of other people. And that's a problem. So, are all of these premises true?
None of them.
None of them are true, and some of them are, it depends. Yeah, the first two are a stretch, right? They are just way out there. How do you get from language to totalitarianism? I don't know how you get there, right? The other two, the academic freedom, I would say no. Lots of people would say no. He says yes. It depends. Being compelled to use this language violates his right to freedom of speech. Depends whether you see it as hate speech, but it definitely violates the rights of other people. So these premises are kind of not entirely true. Are they kind of a legitimate support for the argument? If the first one is true, is that a good reason to not use the language? I think so, right? If using this language led to a dictatorship in Canada, that's a good reason not to use it, right? We don't want a dictatorship in Canada, at least I don't. If using this language empowered power-mad people, would we not want to use that language? Yeah, we would not want to use it. Okay. Would we not want to use this language if it violated academic freedom? Yeah, right? If it violates your academic freedom, then we shouldn't be forced to do it. If using this language does violate his right to free speech, should anyone make him do it? No, right? So do these premises, they logically support his conclusion, right? But are they true? Two of them are a big stretch. The other two are kind of questionable. So does Jordan have a good argument here? Not so much, right? Which is surprising, right? Because, what's that? Needs a lot of proof, right? So based on what we already know and based on the argument that, based on the argument that the others are making, a lot of these are intuitively true and we already kind of know them to be true, right? So these people have a good argument that supports their conclusion and that are mostly true, right? Or arguably true. Jordan here has an argument that has premises that legitimately support his conclusion, but two of them are pretty hard to see as true. And the other ones are probably not true either, right? So does he have a good argument? No, right? You can't have an argument that is based on false premises, right? If I told you that you all should drink coffee because it'll give you superpowers, well, that's a great reason to drink coffee, but is it true? No, right? So again, it's not a good argument. So is it surprising that Jordan Peterson has a bad argument?
Yeah.
Why is that surprising?
He's a professor.
Yeah, he's a professor. And what did you say before, Anna?
Yeah, like why would he risk it and why would he like not understand that people have the right to be, like transgender people have the right to be accepted.
It's a little bit surprising, right? Because you would think as a psychologist he might understand these things better, and as an academic, someone who is used to making arguments, you would think he would do a better or a clearer job at communicating what he's
confident with his argument.
He's what?
He's so confident, like super confident with his argument.
Yeah, he's very confident in his argument, and maybe he's confident that people will just listen to him because he's a prof at U of T, right? Maybe he thinks that that's good enough. And I mean, again, on paper that should make him credible, right? People who are professors at U of T should know what they're talking about. But again, it doesn't always mean that they make a good argument, right? Especially on something, this is not a research argument, this is a kind of a personal thing. But then my question is, why do you think he's making this argument in the first place? Why, like Anna asks, why? This is an expression, okay? Have you ever heard this expression, choose the hill you want to die on? Have you ever heard that expression before? No? So it's basically, if you're going to get involved in a fight about something, anything, is it worth, is it worth kind of dying over? Either physically or, is it worth losing your job over or worth losing your relationship over, right? So is this the hill you want to die on? Is this the thing you want to fight to the death about? And so he seems to have chosen this hill to potentially die on, but why? Why hasn't he just said, you know what, I don't agree with this, but fine. It'll probably be one student per term who comes up to me and says, please refer to me by this. I don't agree with it, but I'll just do it. Why has he chosen this hill to die on? Why has he decided to make a big deal out of this?
To promote himself, to become popular so he can sell the book.
Well, it certainly has made him popular, which is interesting, right? Because is Jordan Peterson in dominant groups or minoritized ones? Dominant, right? He's a white, male, Canadian citizen. He's kind of on the upper levels of society as a person who probably makes some good money, and he's an academic at a prestigious Canadian university. So he's in a lot of dominant groups. And has this hurt him? Not at all, right? His classes are filling up. We read about people who, I saw this guy on YouTube and I had to take his class. People are contributing to his Patreon accounts. Like, this has helped him, right? This has been a net positive for him. But do you think that's why he did it? Do you think that's why he's jumping on this? Do you think that's why he's fighting this fight? Why is he fighting it, do you think? Why is he saying this?
Maybe he wants to discriminate against LGBT.
It definitely could have something to do with his personal beliefs, right? He's trying to make it about academic freedom and freedom of speech. Could he have some prejudicial ideas underneath that are motivating him? It's possible, right? He doesn't really make that clear, but then again, he's maybe smart enough to come up with other reasons. If he was accepting of transgender people, would he make this argument? Do you think? Probably not, right? So we can't say for sure that he has prejudicial ideas against transgender people, but if he was accepting of them, you think he would just say, yes, of course, right? He'd say, yeah, fine. That's my personal position, right? I'm accepting of transgender people. If somebody asked me to use a certain pronoun, I would do my best to do it, right? If it was a new pronoun like Z, I would probably mess up because I'm not used to using it. But I can very easily learn, right? It's not a big thing. So, yeah, so why does he want to go to bat on this? Why does he want to fight so hard about this thing that seems pretty easy? And, does it really change anything to use different pronouns for a small group of people? Does that empower anyone?
He has a big ego. He doesn't want to obey anyone else.
Could be. Were you watching videos of him?
No, I've seen like the thumbnail. I didn't watch it.
Oh, okay. Maybe it has to do with his ego, right? Maybe he has some prejudicial ideas underneath that are feeding this. Hard to say, right? But does he have a good argument? Not so much, right? Does the other side have a good argument? Yeah. And so no matter what your view on this is, whether you believe that people should be allowed to choose their pronouns, or whether you don't agree with that, either way, I want you to see that, of course, there are arguments to be made on both sides, but in this case, one side has not made a very good argument, right? They have a conclusion, they have premises that support it, but their premises are not very good, right? They're either not true or kind of questionable. The other side has made a much stronger case. And again, you can agree or disagree with either side, but I want you to see that there are two arguments here, and in this case, one is much better. One is much better than the other, right? No matter what you believe. And yeah, and Salah says, yeah, maybe he just doesn't want to. Maybe he just doesn't want to change, right? Who knows?
Do you know him in person?
I've never met him.
Like apparently he went to University of Alberta. So
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh. He's probably older than me, and he probably started university earlier than me. So did he get his bachelor's there or something?
Yeah, like in political science.
Oh, in political science.
and
Okay.
Psychology.
Interesting. Okay. He was probably. Do you have the years that he was there?
Let me.
Have a look for me.
He was 54 and
Oh, he's
1984.
way older than me.
1984.
He started there in 1984, or he graduated in 84?
I think he started at that.
He started in 84. Okay. I was 8 years old. So, yeah. So I was not there at the same time as he was. Huh? I was born in 76. Way back in the 70s.
Did you like it back then or now?
Well, I don't really remember very much from the 70s because I was a small child.
80s, 70s.
I like the 80s. The 80s are fun. The music is great. Okay. So that's about all the time we have today. I know that was a bit of a struggle to get through, but I think it was good, right? Sometimes it helps to just work through these things and try to figure out how to put together arguments. And we did it, right? We put together two arguments. We evaluated them, and we were able to determine that one side had a good one and one side has a pretty questionable one, right? Maybe a better argument could be made for not using the pronouns, but does Jordan Peterson have that argument? I'd say he does not, right? So again, whether you agree or disagree with him or the other side, we were able to determine what their arguments were and whether their arguments actually made any kind of logical sense. And I think one did and one did not. Sorry, Jordan. Okay, he's not watching this.
you never know.
It's true, you never know. So that's all we have for today. So come back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Your paper's due on Friday tomorrow by the end of the day. So email it to me when it's ready in Word format or in Pages, whatever, if you're using a Mac or PC or whatever. And that is it. Good participation online, people. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.